Welcome, everybody. Lee Henson Hasty here. I'm Senior Director of Theological Education Funds Development at the Presbyterian Foundation. That's a ministry of the Committee on Theological Education. I'm here on Leading Theologically with a board member of both the Presbyterian Foundation and the Vice Chair of the Committee on Theological Education. This is my boss right here. My wife says he's her pastor, but he's my boss. I'm just joking. Paul Roberts, the Reverend Paul Roberts, President Johnson C. Smith Theological Seminary. You hear that laugh, and we're going to have so much fun today. Glad everybody let us know you're here. We're going to have a lot of fun. We had lots of titles. Paul had a wonderful topic. What are you working on? What was it?
It was. Well, it really is about my my evolution, my vocational evolution, and I'm trying to work with what it means to be a priest. So I had this very long, wordy topic.
Oh, he's thinking about pastoral leadership and some new. So we can talk about anything. I finally just titled it "A Conversation with Paul Roberts" because it's going to be beautiful no matter what. And I think if you don't know Paul, you'll see that soon. If you do know, you already know this. And I'm just so grateful that you would be here. Paul, we will put in the chat a link to your bio, which you can find at www.jcsts.org, Johnson C. Smith Theological Seminary. But let me just say, besides serving on the Committee on Theological Education and the Presbyterian Foundation Board, Paul is a writer, a preacher. He's a Princeton alum where he studied business and economics, right? Business? No. But that was your first role.
No offense to Princeton Theological Seminary, but I graduated from
Princeton University. Yes, Princeton
University. And I studied architecture and African American studies.
Right, that's right. And then studied at the Interdenominational Theological Center and Johnson C. Smith when it was embedded there for his Master of Divinity degree. In between, worked in New York City, right? Worked in the city. I love that he was an architect. He's still an architect, just a different kind of social, ecclesiological, architecture that you're building. I think I'd love to talk about that, but just so grateful. If you don't know Johnson C. Smith, over 150 years historically Black theological school related to the Presbyterian Church USA, and what a gift that has transformed in the last 15 years under Paul's leadership. And we can talk more about that. I'm going to stop because I want him to talk. And I want to start by, this is a conversation with Paul Roberts, and it should be more about Paul Roberts. But I want to start by asking you what Howard Thurman asked Katie Cannon and many others, is when you're checking about your vocation and call, he asked, what is making you come alive? So Paul, what is making you come alive these days?
I love that question so much, Lee. Thank you. Actually, it is what's making me come alive is tangential to the day-to-day work I do, and that is my yoga practice. I've been practicing hot yoga for about 4.5 years, and the impact of that practice on my heart, my mind, my body, and even my family, my wife and our 3 children, when they can, they practice yoga now, and hot yoga specifically. And it has been really life-giving for me. Has helped me to broaden my sphere. When you're in ministry and you love the ministry that you do, it's very easy to be a bit narrow, myopic. And the yoga has broadened my perspective and introduced me to new people, and helped me to think about my ministry, as a whole in some different ways. Particularly, I feel like I'm better able to draw the spirit-body connection.
Wow. And so specifically hot yoga, you're pretty particular about that. What is the and you're smiling. What is that about? I'd love to know.
So the hot yoga is a yoga that is practiced in a room that is a 105 degrees at 40% humidity. So it very much feels like a sauna. And the style of yoga that I practice is called Bikram, named after a yogi who built up a very, very broad-based, successful practice decades ago. He has, there have been allegations about his behavior in recent years, so they've changed. Many people don't use his name anymore. They refer to it as the 26 and 2. So it's 26 postures done twice in a room that is 105 degrees at 40% humidity. And what that does for me is help my focus. I mean, it's a 90-minute practice, 26 postures done twice in that 90-minute period, and you can't get through it without a real strong sense of focus. And so I found that very helpful to my clarity, day by day by day, whether it's a yoga day for me or not. And the heat is meaningful for me because, Lee, I'm a Florida boy.
There you
go. So I like heat. I can deal with humidity. I like to sweat, and I found just the amount of perspiration it energizes me, and I'm pretty sure that it helps me to eliminate toxins or whatever there is in
probably chemically, spiritually, everything else.
That's right.
Yeah, if you have to stay that so I bet I've done a little bit of yoga. I'm not by any means can say I practice yoga. I've sampled, I would say, but I bet 26 practices twice in 90 minutes. Like there's a rhythm, and you probably know the is in a particular order that things go, right? You can probably do it in your head, like boom, boom. There's a rhythm to that. It feels like, yeah.
It's the same 26 postures in the same sequence every time.
Yeah. Wow.
As opposed to other types of yoga, like my daughter also practices vinyasa, which is a practice that flows and is designed by the instructor, class after class after class. So every flow differs. With the 26 and 2, it's the same sequence every single time. And I find I like that. I practice vinyasa also, and I think it's beautiful.
Right.
But I like the 26 and 2 because there are no surprises. I know what's coming. And at this stage in my life,
yeah, you need to know.
There is benefit to knowing in advance.
Right. Hydrate, stretch, whatever it is.
Yes.
And you know when the end is. The end is where the end is. I'm not a fan of meetings that do not have an end time.
Right. Oh my goodness.
We're 30 minutes again, by the way. Actually less now. So 20. That is beautiful. I'm remembering, and I think there's somebody who's writing about this. I'm not sure how public it is, but I remember another president of a Presbyterian theological school who practiced yoga, and in particular with a group of people very different than that person. You're smiling, you know who this is. But you mentioned you've got a new set of friends. And I wonder about that. All of this, y'all, focus. This is very applicable, I think, to hopefully a lot of folks who are listening, whatever kind of leadership role or life role you're in. But tell me about the other set of friends. Isn't that, how did you say it? New people in your life.
Yeah. The studio environment is a community.
Okay.
It's not folks who just show up and do their thing and go home. It's community, and I appreciate that about my studio. That value around community is cultivated.
Wow.
The core of yoga teachers, each of them is different. Each of them has a particular style and a particular giftedness. But one thing they all do well is they call everyone by name. In the context of the class itself, if there is a correction, the instructors are able to say, well, Paul, maybe you want to hold your hand this way, or
right.
Straighten your leg, some correction that is unique to me. So the attentiveness of the instructional staff kind of sets the tone for everybody engaging with everybody else. And that's of particular importance to me. That's a defining characteristic of the work that I do. That's a defining characteristic of the mission statement of Johnson C. Smith Theological
I was getting
Center.
ready to say, this informs your mission.
Yes, this informs our mission and my sense of call. So to walk into the studio, like if I'm traveling and am unable to be in yoga for a week, 10 days or whatever, I walk into the studio and immediately I hear, "Hey, Paul, where have you been?" And that could be from an instructor or from a person, one of the other classmates.
Right.
I value that. It feels good to be missed. And so I value that. And I have learned that in casual conversation, I have a lot more in common with these people than yoga.
Right.
So it has reminded me of the common journey and the importance of relating to people beyond what you have immediately in common with them.
Right. I know that the mission, Johnson C. Smith mission, really focused with an online platform for social justice, and I know there's preaching. I'd love to hear more about kind of what y'all are working on. Liberation theology, sort of at the center of this program. This seems, what you're doing though, seems like a laboratory to sort of give some guideposts for leadership to understand maybe some things in some different ways. Are sort of like building from ground zero, which I think a lot of church leaders are doing right now. I mean, it's not only not the same, it's a whole, church is just a whole different thing than it once was. It looks like it used to look, but I don't think it's the same.
Yeah,
there's been multiple pandemics been happening around us, and this week I can't not say and pray for the people directly and all of us indirectly affected by yet another school shooting, this time at a Presbyterian, not PCUSA, but still yet a Presbyterian related Christian school in Nashville, Tennessee, and there's work, there's ministry to be done, and it requires focus and centeredness, and
That's right.
you can't just, you've got to be ready. Yeah, and it's hard work. And I hear people with sort of, in a way, having trauma because this is reminding them of other traumas, when things like this happen. So
Right.
I'm just thinking, I'm glad to hear this is giving you life, because it's got to be something that you get incorporated. Tell me more about what's going on with Smith and how folks can engage.
Thank you, Lee. Before I do that, I want to say thank you for mentioning the most recent shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to stay on my soapbox for long here, but I join with you and so many others in praying for that community, and
taking the next step too, right?
and taking the next step,
Mm-hmm.
which for me is being more assertive. In some way. I don't exactly know what that looks like at this point, but we have got to make our country safe for our children.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this is not merely a matter of right to bear arms.
Right.
We're talking about the safety of our children, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we've got to do something. We've just got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And people of faith, I think, have a very unique opportunity here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yes, thank you for bringing that up. It's you're a parent.
Right. Oh gosh. Can't even imagine.
And these things are happening in places that we're surprised about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like no place is immune.
Mm-hmm.
So we've just got to find a way to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this kind of societal harm that powers the educational program, the curriculum of Johnson C. Smith Theological Seminary today.
Mm-hmm.
We are heavily, as you stated, justice oriented. We've been fueled in our work by the tragic losses of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, and the list goes on. I mean, before that,
Right.
Eric Garner, and before that, Emmett Till.
Right.
So there is history here that has fueled the programming decisions of Johnson C. Smith Theological Seminary more than ever, more in these last 10 years than ever before. I'm really proud of that. And yet I find it incredibly challenging and difficult and heart-wrenching.
Mm-hmm.
It's the role of the church and church-affiliated organizations, in my opinion, to bear this pain and to find ways to address the issues from which the pain emerges.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. So our mission statement is advancing communities of faith, justice, and compassion through innovation in theological education. And there are strong emphases, as we've stated before, around what it means to be a vital, healthy, powerful, positive community.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about communities of different stripes and configurations. And the curriculum that we're building is hopefully, prayerfully, feeding, strongly connected to those values and feeding those who want to take a more active role in addressing ecclesial and societal issues.
And for students, we're not talking about folks seeking degrees. We're talking about it can be a teaching elder, it can be a ruling elder, it can be a young person, it can be someone more senior in their years. I mean, there's entry points for everyone. This is not an application and apply. It's come be at the table, right?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, and
Yes.
join us, and you can be anywhere. That's the beauty of this, right?
Yes.
And there's synchronous and asynchronous components, or to what most of your engagement.
Yeah, we have offered both the synchronous and the asynchronous, and we have in the last 24 months spent more time on the synchronous learning.
Mm-hmm. It gets everybody in the room when you do that, right? Yeah.
Yes. Everybody on the same Zoom screen, and on those occasions when we bring people together physically in the same room or at the same location, eyeball to eyeball.
Right. I think, what a gift. And it feels like, some people say, and I kind of hear the psalmist crying out, when, I mean, we've got to draw a line somewhere, and people want to say, we can draw that line ourselves by getting engaged, getting, connected with others, doing this work, and getting the training, because there's specialized training to really do this well. It seems very contextual, so it could prepare people no matter where they are, what they're working on, together. And I think it's, this is I'm reading, gosh, I just packed it up. We're going to be joining each other together to have a little inauguration of a friend. Jose Arizari is president of Austin Seminary later this week. But yeah, we're very excited. We're clapping our hands and smiling. But I'm reading Justo Gonzalez's History of Theological Education, and he says, absolutely, this is what the future of theological education looks like, right? It's, you're nodding. I think you've read this book.
I've read it many times. I've had my board read it. I think it's one of my favorites. Everybody should read it. When we began our, as you said, when we began our reinvention, a lot of people said to me, when we announced that we were no longer offering the Master of Divinity degree, how can you be a seminary without an MDiv?
Right.
Gonzalez walks.
That's a recent invention, by the way, historically.
It's an invention of the last century or so.
Right. And it's an invention of the Western world, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, Gonzalez does a masterful job walking the reader through 2,000 years. 2,000 years of theological education.
Yeah, and he comes to this sentence, semi-monastic, that's what he calls it. The kind of dominant model, the semi-monastic model, has become ever more difficult and even unsustainable. I'm not ready to let it go totally, but it's definitely not for everybody. And then he goes on, and I think that you must have read this sentence. Just as the appearance of the printing press in the past led to significant changes in theological curricula, today the presence of the internet and other digitalized resources forces us to rethink both curriculum itself and how it's taught. There it is. He's pointing.
There it is.
Whoop! There it is. If you were wondering, y'all, I told you we were going to have too much fun. I bet time is almost gone. What has happened?
I don't know what time it is.
Oh my Lord. Please, thank you those who've joined us. If there's comments, let us know you're here. And let me just say, we will keep talking here for a few more minutes. Love to hear from you. I'm going to go ahead and say, love for you to subscribe and review our podcast, Leading Theologically, other theological leaders just like Paul alongside. And gosh, I've had 60 episodes. I can't believe that. I'm always looking for others. Should have had Paul much sooner. My next guest is a wonderful leader. They're doing some amazing things in Charlotte. You know this, don't you? I don't know if you've heard about some of the reparations stuff they're doing. April 19th, Jan Edmonston, she's a former General Assembly moderator. She's the executive presbyter there, a writer, blogger. These are her words, loving the church enough to transform it. That's what she talks about. And so we'll be talking about what they're doing. Raj Nadella, also Atlanta-based. He's at Columbia, will be with us talking about some post-colonial Bible work. Chris Burton from Union Seminary at the end of May. Uh-oh.
All right.
That's all right. God may be calling. Don't turn it down. He's at the Leadership Institute at Union. And here's breaking news. Breaking news. I think from my last show, one of my friends has convinced me to see if I could be a guest on my own show. I got to find somebody to interview me. This could be dangerous.
I'd
love to get your feedback on that, anybody. But today, just so grateful to have Paul. I'd love for you to give a benediction here in a moment, if you would. But friends, if there's any last questions that you have, we'd love to hear them. Julie Bailey is here with us, and she says hi from Columbia Seminary. I want you to know that our board member C.C. Armstrong represented well at the Synod meeting. That's good. Synod South Atlantic. So that must be happening. So thanks for being here, Julie. What a bright light she is. Yeah, grabbing our hearts. Other things you'd like for the world to hear about what's going on with Paul Roberts, and things you're thinking about, wondering about, needing conversation partners for looking.
Yeah, there's always a lot stirring. I mentioned at the beginning that I'm evolving, that my sense of identity is of vocational identity is evolving, and we don't have time to get into all that, nor is it maybe not really all that interesting. But for me, I've really been considering what it means to be a priest.
Okay.
In the sense of the way priests have in various cultures kind of been sort of the sage,
right?
The shaman, sometimes the healer,
right?
And I've been looking at the work of John Mbiti and even Walter Brueggemann on this role that I'm feeling called to. So more about that.
Oh gosh, we got to have another show. We're gonna have to have another show. Now that people know, follow Paul on social media. You may even see some pictures of hot yoga, which are pretty dang awesome.
Yes, thanks to my bride, Nina Roberts.
Right. Yeah, we should. That's who I should have on the show next, really. Now that I'm thinking about it. What a gift she is, and your family. Blessings to you. Thank you for who you are, Paul, who you are becoming, the ways you continue to come alive, the questions that you ask, the highlights in books that you don't forget, the relationships that you continue to tend all across the church and the world. Thank you, Paul. I mean, I know I'm not just speaking for myself. There is a chorus behind me, grateful for who you are, the child of God that you indeed are.
Thank you,
Would
brother.
you bless and send us as we go?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for this time, Lee. It means the world to me.
Mm.
So right out of Book of Common Worship, it's actually my favorite. I'm going to read it just because I'm a little emotional and I don't want to miss a word.
Okay.
Friends, go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all people.
All people.
Love and serve the Lord, rejoicing in the power of the Holy Spirit. Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
Amen.
Amen. Paul, thank you. And to everyone who are here or listening later, know you are beloved. That all includes you, right, Paul? And we look forward to crossing paths with you soon. Take good care.
Blessings.